And welcome back to Washington Commanders Insider. Today we are talking about what Adam Peters had to say that has us excited for many seasons to come. And so before we go ahead and jump into it, I first want to remind you to hit that subscribe button, just like Jayden Daniels is going to be hitting Terry McLaurin and Deebo Samuel for lots of touchdowns this upcoming season. And so in exchange for hitting that subscribe, I'm going to give you nothing but daily content around the Washington Commanders. And so make sure you hit that subscribe, you hit that like button, and you join the Washington Commanders Insider family as we talk nothing but Washington Commanders football. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the content for today. And so we're talking about Adam Peters, and we're talking about what he had to say. And he was on the ESPN show with Pat McAfee. And so if you want to go take a look at that, go to ESPN.com. I'm sure you can find it there, or go to the YouTube page and I'm sure you'll find it. It's a 30-minute interview. It's a bit of a roundtable discussion where they're asking Adam Peters about various things, Jayden Daniels, the new draft selections, the facilities and things like that. And I'll just say this before we jump into, what he had to say and paraphrasing it. Super excited to hear Adam Peters, talk about these things. It definitely lets you know just the type of direction that the Washington Commanders are in right now. It's certainly better than what we have saw, over the last forever, it seems like, with the last front office and ownership. And so it's just great to see this and just feeling really positive that the Washington Commanders are going to probably make some more moves. I think that if it's not anything that happens here before, the preseason or at the end of the preseason, I think that Adam Peters certainly is a guy that is always looking to improve the Washington Commanders, on and off the field. So super excited for what is going to happen this season and seasons to come. And so let's go ahead and jump into some key talking points out of this interview. And so the first thing that he talks about is Jayden Daniels, and he was just talking about just his work ethic. And he talks about how Jayden Daniels has really earned everything. I think he was even talking about him doing drop back passes on one of their private flights or something like that. So it just tells you just how much Jayden Daniels is invested into getting better as a quarterback. And I must say, I'm super excited about that, to know that you have your franchise quarterback that is always just preparing, always trying to get better. And I think that that is something that has really trickled down throughout this team. And so it's great to see, look, that we got some great leadership at the top, but we certainly got some great leadership on the field. And so I'm looking to see what Jayden Daniels is going to do in year number 2. Next, we get a chance to talk about, or he talks about some of the draft selections here. And so the first player that was mentioned in this was Josh Conley Jr. And so they talk about the draft story with him. And so, this has been out there, but this is the first time that I've talked about it here on the channel. And it's about Cliff Kingsbury, and he writes a note there to Adam Peters to draft Josh Conley Jr. And so Adam Peters talks about how Cliff Kingsbury, which we know he puts in a ton of work, and he's talking about how he goes through all this footage for college teams, and he's looking at ways to make the Washington Commanders offense better, like thinking maybe he can take some of the things that he saw, in college football and kind of throw it into the Washington Commanders, playbook and such. But he said that he watched all of Oregon snaps, and he saw that Josh Conley Jr., was that guy that kind of, I guess, jumped out at him. And so he went ahead, wrote the personal note, and then they went ahead and drafted him. But Adam Peters was talking about that, look, if Cliff Kingsbury believes in him, we definitely wanted to go ahead and pick him up. And he just talks about how connected they are and how it's really all hands on deck. And so just paraphrasing this again, you'd have to go back and look at it. But, he's saying that is really what it comes down to. It is a group effort when they're going out and picking these players. And so I love to see the synergy across the board from the front office to the coaches here. And so getting a guy that they wanted in Josh Conley Jr. Next up, he talks about just really from a collaborative standpoint, some more about just how they come together when they're drafting players. And so another player that came up there was Trey Amos. And so talking about the R&D department, which is something that he's referring to as far as I'm thinking the department that takes care of the analytics. But he was saying that, look, they definitely were raving about Trey Amos. He talked about the excitement when they drafted him. And again, that just tells you how connected this team is, from a front office to the coaching department to the scouts and everything else, like how connected they are and going out and getting their guy in Trey Amos. So super excited to see him. I think I've said this several times on a couple videos leading up to this one. I think that Trey Amos, he has, I think, the clearest path to be a day one starter and a huge impact player for the Washington Commanders. I think he can absolutely be a shutdown corner, hopefully from day one here. And so next, he talks a little bit more about just players that we've brought in. And so he talks about Deebo Samuel. And so before we get into Deebo Samuel, there is a former player on the show that used to play in the National Football League. And I guess he was with the Patriots. And Adam Peters was with the Patriots, but he was leaving the Patriots before he got there. And that's Darius Butler. So you can catch him on ESPN. He's an analyst breaking down films and stuff like that. But he mentions briefly about how the Commanders, he believes, led the league in hurry-up offense. But it goes into Deebo Samuel. And Adam Peters talks about, how Deebo Samuel just understands the offense and talks about how, just remembering how he's carried the San Francisco 49ers on his back. And so that type of, competition level, bringing that over here to the Washington Commanders and just talking about how he wanted to get Jayden Daniels, somebody that he could just get the ball out of his hands and just let him work. And so that it goes into what I was talking about yesterday on yesterday's video, saying that, look, Deebo Samuel is certainly going to be an important part to the Washington Commanders this year. And if they don't, go out and add another veteran wide receiver or anything like that, like Deebo Samuel is going to be huge, because I think that the dynamic between him and Terry McLaurin, like I think that alone is going to lift us up, and that's not even talking about what we have, with Jaylin Lane, which we're going to get into in a moment, and then also too, Ja'Cory Brooks, which we talked about, like players that can really be an impact that were either picked up late, in the draft or just undrafted here. And so speaking of Jaylin Lane, that is another player that is mentioned in this interview. And I love just what Pat McAfee was saying here, because he's talking about how fast he ran. We've talked about it before with the 4.340, but he also talks about how he has won the humanitarian award for Virginia Tech as well. And so he thought that was wild that he's ran that fast and won that award. And so one of the things that Adam Peters is talking about is that when they get to a day 3 situation, they huddle up and they kind of take a vote over, who do we want to go with? And he was the guy that was the guy that everybody wanted to go with. And so super excited to get him in the building. He does talk a little bit more about just how special he is as a punt returner. So, again, this is one of those players that I've said that, look, he is going to be a day one impact player. I don't know if he's necessarily going to be a starter, as far as like on the offense, but I definitely think that he has a chance to really carve out a significant role as a special teams ace. So I'm super excited to see him. And then next, look, talking about another addition here in Laremy Tunsil, and just in how he is going to be really, an anchor up front for us. And so just paraphrasing that, but wanted to make sure that, look, he is getting Jayden Daniels protected. And so Laremy Tunsil was a huge, acquisition over the offseason. So that was good to hear. Again, you'd have to go back and listen to this in full. And then lastly, one of the things that I wanted to talk about is just the upgrades that he is saying the Washington Commanders are doing. And so going back to the grade card, and one of the things that the Commanders failed at was the locker room. And so he talks about the owner, Josh Harris, and he's saying, look, man, I don't want to be associated with an F. And so it's funny because he mentions that, look, if they mention something to Josh Harris and they say, hey, we need to get it fixed, Josh Harris is like, just fix it. And so he's talking about an AstroTurf field which I think is by his office. And he said that they ripped that up. They got the grass field and whatnot. And he was just like, I can't believe that it's in there. He said, I thought it was just something that was on Google. But when I got here, it was actually here. So he's like, they got that rid of that field. But he's also talking about that they are going to fix the locker room, or they're currently revamping the locker room. And so it just lets you know, man, that the Washington Commanders are doing everything that they can do to just really push this team in the right direction, trying to get it better. And it's just a breath of fresh air as a fan to know that, look, man, we have such great direction from the top down to the bottom. And he talks about also, too, lastly, Dan Quinn and how he has really been a connector, for the team, for the players, for the coaches, how this has become a destination spot for players around the league now. And it just kind of talks about, man, just the culture and just the identity that the Washington Commanders have. And so certainly excited about that. He does leave off with, look, just getting better. So, again, that goes into more to come for the Washington Commanders, which is why I think that, look, the Commanders are not done making moves. I think that, like I said, Adam Peters is always trying to figure out a way to get this roster even better than what it is. And so I am curious to see what the next move is going to be for the Washington Commanders. Are they going to make a splash at the edge, after preseason? Is it going to be before preseason? And it could be something where I could see Adam Peters making another splash play at the NFL trade deadline coming up this season. But anyway, let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking about Adam Peters here and the optimism that he has given us. What are you guys thinking about the draft selections and just really what goes into that? Really talking about how, the team is really on the same page. It seems like everybody has a say in that. What are you guys feeling about Jayden Daniels in year 2? Because I am super excited. I think he takes another step forward this year, especially when you hear about the preparation and just the way that he comes about things, and just really feeling like, look, it doesn't matter if he was the MVP last season. He always feels like he has to earn it. That is something great to hear in the Washington franchise quarterback here. And then I just love the additions, man. When you tie it all together, when you have a Laremy Tunsil who is there to definitely make sure that Jayden Daniels is protected. He gets the max amount of time. And so we know what Jayden Daniels can do. And so you got a guy that is smooth as a pass blocker and also, too, can get down in the running block as well. The next with Deebo Samuel, keep talking about him. I think he's going to be huge for us. He's certainly going to open it up some more for Terry McLaurin, because if Terry McLaurin could get loose like he did a season ago, you add Deebo Samuel and all the things that he can do. He's just a playmaker that you just want to get the ball in his hand. Like, super excited for this one. And so let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking about Adam Peters, the optimism, and what's going on with this team. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. And as we always say, go Commanders, and I will see you on the next one. All right, peace.